So the question is, it's automatically going to be older than a year. So how could you use it? The Gemara says, "Halai kasha." That could be like Rebbe. We could hold like Rebbe. Who's Rebbe? Because we learned up Raizel, the Tanya. It says Shana Tamima. So Rashi here says the first wide line is Shana Tamima Hamura Bibate Arechaima. In other words, that you have a year when you buy a house from somebody in Aryai, so you have 1 year to redeem it, to take it back. You have a right. Once the year is over, you have no right to go ahead and redeem it. That's it says Hamura b'batei Aryai lias chaluta l'lokeach. Chalut means that it's just like by Mitzvah muchlat, right? You have a muskar safik muchlat. It's all set. It belongs to the buyer. Once the year passes, you cannot redeem it again. So it says Shana Tamima. So what is a year? So Rabbi says it's Moneh Shalosh Meyos V'Shish V'Chamish Yom Kamini Ma'asachama. You count 365 days. Rashi says, Bein she'ibru bezin zashana, even though you made an extra month, Bein she'la'ibru she'ein lach limnois elo yimaisachama. The Chachamim come along, this is Divrei Rebbe. The Chachamim ayimrim no, mayne shnei masachaydish miyayim liyayim. In other words, Hakol, Rashi says, Kumay she'Yisrael maynim, yud beis chaydish miyayim liyayim im peshutadi. You go from month to month, right? And therefore, in this Abra, if Bezdin makes an extra month, then it's Abra L'mocher. But according to Rebbe, when you count 365 days, if you have a par and a sa'ir that is 8 days old, an Erev Yom Kippur, by the next year,
it's 12.
No, it's not. It'll only be 300. It could be 364. It's not 365. Because we're going, according to our cheshbon, you go with Imais Halavana, right? The year, the age of a year goes for a full 365 days. Right. So by the time Yom Kippur comes, it's not yet a year.
It's not 365.
According to Chachamim, he says month to month. That's it. It's over, right? His birthday kicked in. But according to Rebbe, you need 365 days, right?
And there's less than 365 days? Right. Why?
354.
It'll be 354. Or is it 354? Or yeah.
And the party has to be a minimum of 8 days old.
So now the Gemara is going to say that. Now the Gemara is going to ask another. No. So a sa'ir has to be 1 year old, right? So you have a case, right? So therefore we make that gezerah. Okay. Now the Gemara asks a question like this. That is hatinich sa'ir. So you're worried about a sa'ir that even though it's still within the year, but we make a gzeira for something else that's going to be a year old, right? That doesn't work out with that cheshbon. But how about the par? A par doesn't have to be, you have to, Rashi says, the first narrow line, shu ben shalosh. You could have up to 3 years old. So therefore you don't have that problem. If you have a par that is a year old now, right? Why can't you use it for next year? So where it says that's going to be al gzeira para to say. By the sar we have a problem of the year old, right? By the par you don't, but you make a gzeira. For the gemara umushum gzeira yamus. Is that what you're going to say? The BAYT chata she'avru shnasai l'riya hazla. In other words, if we're saying that the whole problem is that it got too old, we know the halacha that a chata that gets too old is not tamus, is l'riya azla. So how could Rabbi Yehuda say in the Brisa tamus? He says kulan yamusu. If the whole chesaron here is that it got too old, the halacha is nobody holds yamusu. Right. How could Rabbi Yehuda? So there must be another reason why Rabbi Yehuda says yamusu, not because of chata she'avru shenasai. Where do we know this halacha that chata she'avru shenasai only is l'riya? Amr shlakish chata she'avru shenasai royin isa ki'ilu emed as besak faris v'raya. Automatically is raya. So what is the reason in our brisa of Rabbi Yehuda Yamusu? If you have the seir that got lost, right, and the par, and then you were mafresh another one, and now you have an extra pair, why can't we use it for next year? Why does Rabbi Yehuda say Yamusu? Because you can't say the only problem is it might get too old, because then Rabbi Yehuda wouldn't say Yamusu, he would say only Yira, only pasture. So what must be the reason? Ela marava gzeira mishum takala. There is a takala problem, that we might come in and do something wrong. Like what? That now we learned our Mishnah. Ei makdishin ve'ei ma'arichin ve'ei machrimim bizman hazeh. Today, when there's no Beis Hamikdash, you can't make Hegdish. You can't do Erki Alai. You can't do Harama. Because like Rashi says, everything, when you make Hegdish, it's Stam Lebedek Abayis. Now you have no Beis Hamikdash, where are you going to bring it in? You can't bring it into your local shul, right? You have to bring it into the Beis Hamikdash. So the Mishnah says, Ei Makdishin. Make sure, don't do Hegdish. But the Mishnah says, Hegdish, let's say a guy did Hegdish, or Heref Echrim, right? And now you have whatever you did Hagdish, what happens? There's no Beis Hamikdash. So if you were Magdish a Behema, you say to Aker, it should die. Peiros, or Ksus V'Kalim, if you Magdish Peiros Ksus V'Kalim, what should you do is Yirkavu, let it spoil. How does clothes spoil? I don't know how clothes spoil.
Put it away. Maybe.
Put it away. Or just give it to the yeshiva boy. In yeshiva they say mikvetch the bank. So when you kvetch the bank, your pants get rubbed out a lot, right? So maybe you can give it to the yeshiva boy. And moz v'klei matchais, that is yoylech yama melech. Some people in Agaris Hana, you throw it into the Yama Melech. So the ikur. What is the ikur of a behema? How do you kill it? So noel delos l'fanea, you put it into a barn, you lock the door, you don't give it food, right? So we see by this hegdish, you cannot keep it around because al takali, you might come to use it. So you have to destroy it, right? So here too, in our sa'ir, right, with the sa'ir, when you have an extra one, the reason why you don't keep it around for the next year was you might come to atakala. So for the Gemara, takala the mai. What takala is going to happen here? If you keep it around. Itakala da krava, that in other words, by mistake, in other words, you're keeping this behemoth around, and guess what? You're waiting for Yom Kippur, and before Yom Kippur, you make a mistake, you use it for something else, which you're not allowed to, right? If that's the Kala, for the Gemara, I feel called Riyaz Nami. How do you allow anything to go out to the pasture and wait for a mum? By mistake, you might take it and use it for a carbon. So we see we're not worried about that takala. And itakala, the gizav avoida, that he might come to use the wall and use it to plow, for the marafil called Riyaz Nami. And we know that we allow behemoths to go out and pasture to a mum. So Gemara says, la'olam takala takrava. By this pa'ar v'sa'ir shem kippurim, we're worried that we don't allow you to keep it to the next year because you might use it before Yom Kippur. We had a question by all the cases where there's a behemah and you let it pasture, we don't worry because the Gemara says, but v'hanach l'lav b'nei akrava. When you put something out to pasture, you're not going to be, you're not using this animal. You're only waiting for it to get a mum to be able to sell it and use that new money. So therefore, like Tarabu, he's never looking at the animal. Once it's in the pasture, you know that you're never going to use it. But the Basakravi, this parvi soir of the Yom Kippur, that you have an extra one, and you're putting it into the barn for what reason you're putting it into there for?
Come back to it.
That you want to use it for next year. It's going to be a carbon. So your mind is carbon. This is a carbon. All of a sudden, Tarabe, and by mistake, you're going to use it. Since you're thinking carbon, you're walking in your sleep, let's say, and you chop it and use it as a carbon. So Gemara says, "V'takala atzma." We'll just end up to the Mishnah. V'takala atzma tanoi. Takala itself is a machlekes tanaim, like takala that you might come to use it for your own purpose, right? The Tanya will learn the brisa. The Tanya chada. We learn one brisa, Pesach. In other words, if you have a carbon Pesach, shalei karv b'rishon, you do not use it in Pesach Rishon, so you karv b'sheni, you could go ahead and use it for Pesach Sheni for somebody that was tamei in derech l'chayka, even though the reason why you didn't need it because you were already part of another group. So what you do is you'll sell it to somebody that needs it on Pesach Sheni. B'sheni, let's say you had a carbon Pesach set aside in Pesach Sheni and you don't need it. What should you do? You karv l'shana haba, you could use it for the next year. Right? Now, this sheni can't be. It could if Anyway, did you have it around before the first Pesach? But then it'll be more than a year old. So really, when it says Basheni, means you bought a new young animal, so it won't be a year old. But anyway, Vitanya Yidach, but in another price it says Leikariv, you cannot keep it around for next year. So what's the machlekes in the brisa? My lab b'takola peligi. This machlekes that one price is worrying that what? That you might come and use it for something else, and you won't keep it for Pesach. So you see, there's a machlekes in the concept of takola. Here the machlekes is the machlekes of Shana Tamima again, according to Rebbe and according to Rabbanan. According to Rebbe, that he holds 365 days, so therefore you could keep it around for next year. The other Bryce that says he cannot holds like Rabbanan that goes from month to month, so it'll be older than a year. I read the Gemara now. V'atanya v'chein hamos. It says not only an animal that you set aside, it says money that you set aside. What's the problem with money? It's not getting older than a year. There's no problem of the year. So it must be, since it says money is a problem, must be shmamina b'takola pligi shmamina. That the machlekes is in takola, and therefore you're worried that you might use it for the wrong purpose. So that even applies to money that was set aside for the carbon Pesach, right? You cannot use it for something else. Just go, give it a push.